Welcome to r/payback.
Oh, I never thought our relationship would come to this point. I'm the original poster here. Let's call me Sarah. And my boyfriend Jake has been in my life for almost 3 years now. We met during college, and since then, we've built what I believed was a solid foundation of trust, respect, and love. Jake is 30, I'm 28, and throughout our time together, we've shared a lot: trips, late-night talks, and dreams about the future. We even started talking seriously about moving in together, maybe eventually getting married someday. I've always been pretty traditional when it comes to intimacy. I value emotional connection and trust deeply, and I tend to keep my boundaries clear. Physical intimacy isn't just about pleasure for me. It's about feeling safe, cherished, and connected. Jake seemed to understand this well. He's thoughtful and patient, always checking in with me and making sure I'm comfortable. Still, every relationship has its secrets or surprises, right? I had a feeling Jake had something on his mind for a while, something he was hesitant to share. It wasn't the usual kind of secret. There was something unusual, something I couldn't quite put my finger on. I trusted him, but a part of me was anxious, wondering what it could be. That night, when he finally opened up, everything changed. What he wanted to tell me didn't just surprise me. It shook the very foundation of what I thought we had. It was a request I never expected, one that challenged everything I believed about love, loyalty, and intimacy. It was a quiet Thursday evening, the kind where the city outside dims, and the world seems to slow down just enough for two people to relax. Jake and I were lying in bed, the soft hum of the air conditioner filling the space between us. We'd spent the day binge-watching our favorite show, sharing snacks and small laughter, the kind that feels easy and familiar. But that night, something was different. Jake seemed quieter, more restless. He kept fidgeting with the corner of the blanket, stealing quick glances at me, like he was gathering courage. Finally, he broke the silence. "There's something I've been wanting to tell you," he said, voice low and hesitant. I looked at him, curiosity mixed with concern. "What is it?" He took a deep breath, as if bracing himself. "It's kind of unusual," he began. "I've been thinking about something for a long time, and I wasn't sure how to say it. But I want to be honest with you." My heart started to race. I nodded, urging him to continue. Jake swallowed hard and then said the words that hit me like a punch. "I want you to have sex with other men while I watch. I want to be a cuckold." I blinked, confusion and shock flooding my mind. Did he really just say that? Was this some kind of joke? I stayed silent, searching his face for clues. He looked serious. Nervous, yes, but serious. He explained that this fantasy had been with him for years, long before we met. He said it was about trust and vulnerability for him, about exploring something deep and raw in our relationship. He admitted it was complicated, but he hoped we could talk about it, maybe understand it together. I felt my world tilt. How could he want this? Why would he want to watch me with someone else? The idea was terrifying and heartbreaking all at once. But I stayed still because I needed to hear him out, even if I didn't understand. After Jake's confession, my mind became a battlefield. Every thought seemed tangled in confusion, fear, and disbelief. I felt betrayed, even though I knew he hadn't done anything wrong. The request itself felt like a betrayal, like suddenly everything I thought I meant to him was being questioned. I kept replaying his words over and over. Why did he want this? Was I not enough? Did he see me as just a baby to share? My self-worth, usually steady, wobbled dangerously. The feeling of being shared, of not being his alone, was something I couldn't wrap my head around. I worried that this would change everything between us. Would the intimacy we shared disappear? Would I feel like a stranger in my own relationship? The fear of losing that deep emotional connection haunted me. Jake tried to reassure me. He said it wasn't about not loving me or wanting to replace me. It was about exploring fantasies and trust, about opening new doors without closing the old ones. He promised nothing would happen without my full consent, that he never wanted me to feel pressured or uncomfortable. Even with his reassurances, my feelings were a mix of curiosity and dread. Part of me wanted to understand, to see if this could be a new way to connect. But another part of me recoiled at the thought of sharing something so intimate with others, especially the idea of him watching. The emotional push and pull was exhausting. I loved Jake, and I wanted to support him. But I was scared. Scared of what this would do to us, and scared of what it might reveal about our relationship that I hadn't seen before. After that night, I couldn't stop thinking about what Jake had said. The idea of cuckolding was so foreign to me, I felt lost and unsure. I decided I needed to understand it better, not just for Jake, but for myself. I spent hours researching online, reading forums, blogs, and personal stories from people who practice cuckolding. Some spoke of it as a deep form of trust and connection, while others described it as purely sexual or even humiliating. I found myself caught between curiosity and discomfort. There were moments when I thought, maybe this could work. Maybe it's a way to grow closer in a different way. But then, other times, I felt uneasy. The idea of sharing something so intimate with others felt like crossing a line I wasn't sure I was ready to approach. As I read, I started reflecting on my own boundaries. What did I truly want? What was I willing to explore? And what felt like a hard limit? I realized that while I wanted to support Jake and be open, I also needed to honor my own feelings and comfort zones. I couldn't just say yes because I loved him. I had to feel safe and respected in whatever we tried. The more I thought about it, the more I understood that this wouldn't be a one-time conversation. It would take honesty, patience, and ongoing communication. So I decided to bring it up again with Jake, this time with a clearer head and a readiness to talk openly about what it could mean for us, and what it couldn't. When I finally sat down with Jake to have a serious conversation, the air was heavy with tension. We agreed that this was not something to rush into, and that everything had to be based on trust and consent. Jake emphasized that there was no pressure. Nothing would happen without both of us fully on board. We talked about boundaries. I explained my fears, especially around jealousy, and how this could affect our relationship dynamic. I worried about what it would mean for our friendships if I was involved sexually with people Jake knew. How would I see those friends afterward? Would I be able to look at them the same way? Could I handle knowing Jake was watching? The vulnerability felt overwhelming. Jake listened carefully and reassured me again that my feelings mattered most. He shared that for him, it wasn't about replacing me or hurting me, but about exploring something deep within himself. He wanted to make sure I felt safe, respected, and loved every step of the way. Throughout these talks, our emotions swayed back and forth. Sometimes we felt closer, connected by the honesty and rawness of the conversation. Other times, the fear and uncertainty created walls between us. But through it all, we kept trying to understand each other. By the end of these discussions, we hadn't made any decisions, but we had laid out the groundwork: clear communication, boundaries that could be adjusted, and a commitment to prioritize our emotional well-being. It was fragile, but it felt like a start. Despite the openness in our talks, a moment came when I felt completely overwhelmed. One evening, after another long conversation about the details, I realized I was drowning in anxiety and confusion. The emotional weight of the fantasy, the uncertainty of how it would change our relationship, and my fear of losing what we had built was too much. I broke down and told Jake I needed space, time to figure out if I could even handle this, or if it was going to break us apart. For the first time, I considered that maybe our love wasn't enough to survive this challenge. Jake was hurt but understanding. He tried to explain that his feelings for me hadn't changed, that this was just a part of who he was. He pleaded with me to keep an open mind, promising to never push me beyond my comfort. But I struggled. I felt torn between the love I had for him and the discomfort of what he wanted. I didn't want to lose him, but I also didn't want to lose myself. I chose to step back, at least temporarily, to protect my emotional health. During that time, our communication slowed. It wasn't a breakup, but it was a pause, a moment to breathe and reflect. I wasn't sure what the future held, but I knew I had to be honest with myself first. Feeling lost, I turned to friends and online communities to find some perspective. I shared my story on Reddit, hoping to hear from others who had faced similar situations. The responses were mixed. Some people were incredibly supportive, encouraging me to set firm boundaries and prioritize my feelings. Others were judgmental, saying I should be more open-minded or that I was overreacting. The variety of opinions made me realize just how personal this decision was. No one could tell me what was right or wrong. Only I could decide what I could handle. It was clear I needed to balance my needs with Jake's desires, but I wasn't sure where that balance lay yet. Talking to close friends helped too. They reminded me that my feelings were valid and that any relationship should be built on mutual respect and understanding. The support gave me strength, but it also made me realize I couldn't rush the decision. At the same time, the judgmental comments hurt. They made me question if I was being too rigid or closed off. But deep down, I knew I had to be true to myself, even if it meant disappointing Jake. This stage was confusing and emotional, but it also helped me grow. I learned that seeking advice is valuable, but ultimately, the choice must come from within. After weeks of reflection, I finally sat down and thought seriously about what I wanted. I weighed the pros and cons of exploring cuckolding. On one hand, it might bring new experiences and deeper understanding. On the other, it threatened my emotional security and the trust we had built. I considered the future. Could I ever trust Jake the same way if this became part of our life? Would I feel safe and valued, or would jealousy and discomfort grow? Most importantly, I asked myself if I was willing to sacrifice my comfort for his fantasy. In the end, I realized my relationship needed to be a space where both of us felt safe and respected. If exploring this was going to cause more pain than joy, it wasn't worth it. I knew I couldn't force myself into something I wasn't ready for. I communicated my feelings to Jake clearly and kindly. I told him that while I loved him and wanted to support him, this was a boundary I wasn't willing to cross. I expressed hope that we could find other ways to deepen our connection without compromising my sense of self. Jake listened quietly. He was disappointed but appreciated my honesty. We agreed that keeping communication open was essential, even if this chapter was closing for now. Making this decision was hard, but it gave me clarity. I felt empowered knowing I had stood up for my needs without breaking us apart. Jake's reaction was surprisingly understanding, though tinged with sadness. He admitted it was hard to let go of the fantasy, but he respected my feelings and my decision. For the first time, we both felt a new kind of honesty between us. Our relationship shifted after that conversation. We weren't quite as close as before, but we were more genuine. The tension about cuckolding disappeared, replaced by a cautious openness to discuss other ways to grow together. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. I felt a mix of relief and uncertainty about the future. On one hand, I was glad I had set clear boundaries. On the other, I worried if this difference would cause distance over time. But I also realized that not everything in a relationship needs to be perfect. Sometimes it's about how you face challenges together. This experience taught me a lot about communication and boundaries. I learned that being honest about your feelings, even when difficult, can strengthen a relationship. I also understood the importance of respecting each other's limits, no matter how uncomfortable the topic. Looking back, I feel grateful for the journey, painful as it was. It showed me what I want in love and what I won't compromise. Whether we stay together or not, I know I'm stronger and more self-aware. Sharing my story has been both scary and healing. I never expected to face something so complicated, and I'm still processing everything. I want to thank anyone who's read this far, and I hope it helps someone else feel less alone. I'm curious, has anyone else dealt with the partner's unusual fetish or request? How did you navigate it? Did you find a way to compromise, or did it lead to a breakup? What advice do you have for maintaining trust and respect when boundaries are tested? This experience has made me question how flexible relationships can be while still feeling safe and valued. How do you balance your own needs with your partner's desires, especially when they clash? Is it possible to grow together through such challenges, or do some differences mark a permanent divide? I'm open to hearing all perspectives, whether you think I'm being too cautious or that I did the right thing. I want to learn and understand more, even if the path isn't clear yet. No matter what happens next, I'm hopeful. I believe every experience teaches us something important about ourselves and love. I'm ready to keep moving forward with honesty and courage. Thank you again for listening. I look forward to your thoughts and stories.